Today's video is not about blueberries. It's not even really about manure. Today's video is more about oats. You see this right here? Well, this was my oat field, and I already harvested the oats from this field, and it was a real pain. And the problem I believe came with the manure that we put in this field 3 years ago. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. As you can probably notice, it's not just oats in this field. There's a lot of weeds, and that's normal. I mean, the oats are here. There's the good stuff. That's what we want. But there's also this. This is lady's finger. Now, we never had a problem in this field before. It started about 3 years ago, and here's what happened. See, when my parents bought the farm, they did it all. We used to do vegetables. We used to do anything. We had cattle. So we had, I think, 45, 50 head of cattle. And well, the cows would graze on our land in the pasture, and then we would spread their manure on our fields. So we weren't changing the weed profile of our fields. Anything that grew here anyway, the seeds would pass through the cow into the manure, and we'd spread it back on the field. So there's nothing new. It was 3 years ago, because we haven't had animals in a while, and I'm not going to get animals, because when you get animals, it's a full-time thing. Every day you got to be here. And I live in a trailer, and I'm not about to attempt a Canadian winter in that trailer, so forget animals. So I was looking elsewhere for sources of manure. You could buy it from neighboring farms or from companies that do just that. So that's what I did. Usually, for the past 10 years, I've been almost exclusively using chicken manure, and that doesn't have the same problem. Chicken manure is dried and dehydrated and cooked, so the seeds, any seeds that are in the chicken waste, they're not going to germinate. But the cow manure is raw, and that's where this came in. This field 3 years ago is when we started having the problem with this. So we totally changed the weed profile here, and as you can see, it's kind of a problem for my oats because they grow pretty much to the same level. I was hoping the oats here would overtake the lady's finger, but they came right at the same level and made it very difficult, very, very difficult to pick. And yeah, that's going to be a problem, because oats shouldn't be hard, and it's getting harder and harder every year. So this field, later today, I'm going to mow it in and then disc it, and we're just gonna keep roughing up the soil, but the damage is already done. I mean, there's still good oats in that field, but it's just too hard to pick because of all this, you know? So the damage is already done. The problem is that the lady's finger also seeds at the same time as oats. So if you wanna eradicate a weed problem, you can't let it seed in your field, and that's exactly what it did. So I'm gonna mow it down, and I'm gonna disc it in. And as for the other beds that I have in this field, like this here bed of marshmallow, which you probably didn't even realize was a crop, well, I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna get them by hand like I do with everything else. And big question, what was the take on the oats? The oats. Here we go. That's it. The first day I picked 98 pounds. The second day I picked 158 pounds for a grand total of 256 pounds. Usually I pick 400 pounds in the morning and like 500 in the afternoon. This 250 pounds right away shipped to a client who requires it fresh. And then I kept picking for another 2 days, and I managed, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100 pounds, which we then put in our dryer to satisfy our dry market. How much oats do I need? How many pounds of oats do I need for 1 year sales is the real question. And if we go by last year's numbers, I need 1,500 pounds of milky stage oats to make it through the year. And if we use my predictions for next year's sales, I'm going to need 2,000 pounds. And this is not enough. This is just not enough. But I thought of that. Let's go back out in the field and I'll explain. Last year, I made a video called Oat Redemption. It was one of my favorite videos to make. If you haven't seen it, go find it and watch it. And in that video, it's all about my second seeding of oats. Now, usually we never really had a problem with oats before, so we would just pass through the fields and seed them, and then any extra seed that we'd have, we'd just kind of do odds and ends and use it as a green manure. And last year, that was the case here. I don't know if you can see, the calendula's ready. But 2 years ago, that was my red clover patch, and then it just got tired and inundated with weeds. So I had to plow that section and bring it back, and I used oats as a cover crop, and that ended up actually saving the year last year. Last year, I also made a video called Oat Disaster, which we'll get to in a bit. But my first crop was a total loss, and it was the second crop that I relied on to supply what I could to my clients as well as for myself. And that's what we have here. Now, this was seeded with intention. I knew that we weren't going to have enough oats. We have a problem in one of our fields, and so I just seeded everywhere I can. This is not even supposed to be a field. I wanted to keep this fallow this year because we got the lemon balm here, which I had a pest problem, and I wanted to do that in and everything, but I ended up seeding these little patches everywhere. I got one here, I got one in the back field, I got one in other fields, and also because my current red clover patch is a little, it's starting to go to quackgrass, I'm going to want to bring that back to field. So I underseed my oats with red clover, and this will become the new spot for red clover for the next few years. So that's going to help. That's going to help, but it's not enough. I did seed our problem field, and for that, well, I'll take you there, but we're going to go all the way back and get back into that manure issue, the title of this video. I didn't forget that. So let's go take a quick look over there, and I'll explain what's going on. It's a friggin' mess. Earlier this season, I sat right here, right in this spot, in this field, to showcase the beauty of a freshly seeded oat field. And I also mentioned that there was trouble brewing below the soil, or sand in this case, because there wasn't only oat seeds, there was also weed seeds. Now, I was half right on that statement. There were weed seeds, but there were no oat seeds. I seeded this field. I seeded this field 3 times. Something had jammed on the oat seeder and only seeded half of the field. So where it's supposed to be a 8-foot seeding of oats, there was only 4, and it was just looked like stripes. Now I can't harvest that. You only find out when it germinates 2 weeks later, and then you think maybe half of them went deeper, so they're going to germinate a little later. You give it another week, you realize there's nothing seeded there. So I borrowed my neighbor's seeder. I made a decision. I'm gonna scrap this all in, and there was a lot of weeds too. A lot of the yellow mustard came up, so it was an easy decision. But I would scrap the oats and we would reseed over it. I borrowed my neighbor's oat seeder, and this is like a real deal farmer, not this like ragtag operation I got running here. He's like a $1 million dairy farmer, and so I borrowed his gear, and it's seeded 1/3 the oats. I don't know how he calibrates his oat seeder, but it dropped consistently just 1/3 the amount of seeds that you would need. I can't function like that. And all the while, the new weeds were coming up as well. So I made another decision, and I scrapped those two, go back to our old reliable 1910 international oat seeder, figured out the problem and seeded again. Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, hey Jody, that's a funny looking oat field. Doesn't look like oats to me. Very astute of you. Yes, that's not oats. Those are just weeds. My oats are here. The weed problem in this field has gotten so bad with this yellow mustard, this stuff right here. So I made an action plan here. To get rid of this, you can't let it go to seed. And if it's in the oats, it's gonna go to seed. So I'm leaving half of this field fallow. And I lose all the income that would come on half of this field. I can't do that with the whole field. I have to put oats in here. I need oats, but at least half of it, I can just let the weeds germinate and then do them in again. And the point of that is just all the weed seeds that are in the soil, or all of these seeds that are in the soil, to just get them germinated, kill them, and move on with it. And hopefully next year it'll be less of a problem, hopefully. So that's what I'm doing. These seeds did not come with manure. I know we're talking about manure and I haven't really mentioned it. These did not come with manure. This was in a bad batch of seeds that we bought, oat seeds. And it's not just me. All of Ontario, a lot of the grain farmers got hit a few years back, and their fields are now infested with this weed. So why am I so upset with manure? I'll show you. Because my fields now are filled with garbage. You always get more than what you pay for with manure. In the case of the other field, I got lady's finger, new weed introduced into the field, and here I just get piles of trash. I didn't even have to look hard for this. I can walk around and I'll be pulling this out all day. So yeah, I'm not too excited about that. I don't think I'm gonna buy cow manure anymore, unless it's from my own cows, and I don't think I'm gonna get cows. As much as I complain about it every year, as much as I hate the smell of that dried chicken manure, it doesn't come with weeds, it doesn't come with garbage. I think I'll stick to that. Yeah, easy decision. So all that's fine and dandy, but we still have the problem with half of this field being infested with yellow mustard. I have to deal with that. I cannot let this mustard mature and seed. It's gonna choke out the oats. I will not be able to harvest. And as I mentioned, I really need these oats. So how are we gonna do this? God, I don't recommend it, but we're gonna weed it by hand with old Reliable here. Actually, this is the perfect tool, the Lee Valley Lupo, my all-time favorite tool. I did a test. I don't know if you noticed. I hope you can notice, but these rows here, I kind of walked around with this. I was able to hit, I'd say, about 3.5 to 4 feet as I go up. It took an hour for one pass, and yeah, just going in between with this thing and getting all that mustard out, as well as lamb's quarter. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna defend our oats. I never thought that I would be weeding oats, and I especially never thought that I'd be weeding an oat field 3 years in a row. I really gotta get my act together here. I'm not gonna do this now. The cicadas are going, reminding me it's hot. I can already feel the sun's effects on my mind. So first we're gonna get going with disking in that oat field, as well as this weed crop I got growing here. Let's just get to it. Enough yammering on. I used to grow such beautiful oats. Not anymore.